17 of July 2025, India. The outbreak begins in a densely populated area in India, in a remote village or an urban center with high population density. The virus could originate from a mutated pathogen, a failed experiment, or a natural outbreak with symptoms initially mistaken for a common illness. It started quietly, experiencing an inexplicable illness. First, the symptoms seemed innocuous: fever, fatigue, nothing out of the ordinary. But then, reports trickled in, people turning aggressive, exhibiting bizarre behavior and attacking others. The virus, unnoticed in its initial stages, found its foothold amidst the densely populated areas. Crowded streets in cities like Mumbai and Kolkata became breeding grounds for the rapidly spreading infection. Despite efforts to contain it, the virus defied borders, swiftly leaping from region to region. India's healthcare system, burdened by the vast number of infected individuals, was strained under the pressure. Hospitals overflowed with patients, lacking sufficient medical supplies and trained staff. Panic spread as people attempted to escape affected areas, unknowingly carrying the contagion. So is all lost? Not at all. Let's see what could happen. As the looming threat of a widespread virus outbreak gripped the nation, the government swiftly enacted emergency measures to contain the escalating crisis. In the best of the scenarios, the declaration of a state of emergency brought forth the deployment of military and law enforcement, strategically establishing containment zones. The strict enforcement of quarantine measures became imperative, curtailing movement in and out of affected areas to staunch the virus's rapid spread. Priority shifted swiftly to fortifying the fragile medical infrastructure. A surge of efforts aimed at strengthening healthcare capabilities ensued. Field hospitals materialized, temporary medical facilities sprang up, and an influx of healthcare personnel mobilized to provide critical care to the infected. These actions were vital in alleviating the mounting pressure on existing healthcare facilities, averting potential collapse. Simultaneously, an extensive barrage of public awareness campaigns was launched. Utilizing various mediums such as media outlets, mobile alerts, and community engagement initiatives, the populace was educated about the virus, its symptoms, and preventive measures. Clear and concise communication emerged as the linchpin in combating panic and dispelling misinformation, thus fostering a united front against the encroaching threat. The government, cognizant of the importance of sustaining essential supplies, worked tirelessly on supply chain management. Collaborating closely with local authorities and non-governmental organizations, efforts were channeled to ensure a steady flow of crucial goods and medical resources to the impacted regions. Distribution networks were established, facilitating the provision of food, water, and medicines to the population sequestered within quarantine zones. Meanwhile, research and vaccine development took center stage in the battle against the virus. Intensive collaborations with global health organizations and scientific communities were prioritized. Substantial funding and resources were allocated to laboratories and pharmaceutical companies, driving the urgent quest for a viable vaccine or treatment. Amidst the turmoil, security and law enforcement measures were bolstered to maintain order. Vigilant military personnel and law enforcement agencies diligently patrolled quarantine zones, preempting potential civil unrest and thwarting any threats of looting or violence. With approximately 1.4 million active military personnel and a diverse arsenal comprising tanks, aircraft, and naval assets, India's military stands as one of the world's largest and most well-equipped forces. In such a crisis, the Indian military would swiftly deploy its troops, leveraging their expertise and resources in a multifaceted response. Troops would be strategically positioned to enforce quarantine measures, secure borders between infected and unaffected regions, and establish checkpoints to contain the spread. Working in conjunction with medical teams, the military would set up field hospitals and mobile medical units to provide immediate healthcare support, alleviating pressure on overwhelmed healthcare facilities. Additionally, they would facilitate logistical operations, ensuring the efficient distribution of vital supplies to affected areas. The military's role in maintaining law and order, securing safe zones for evacuees, and coordinating efforts with international forces underscores their crucial contribution to managing the crisis while adapting their strategies to address evolving challenges in the fight against the outbreak. But remember, all of this is in the best of cases. Probably this will not happen like that. I'm almost sure of that. In a worst-case scenario where a highly contagious virus begins in a densely populated area in India, the situation could rapidly spiral into a devastating crisis. As the virus stealthily takes root, initial cases might go unnoticed, allowing the contagion to stealthily spread within the bustling city streets or crowded urban neighborhoods. At first, misdiagnoses or a lack of awareness might contribute to the virus gaining a foothold. With the density of the population and the proximity of individuals in markets, public transportation, and residential areas, the virus would have an ideal environment to propagate. As the number of infected individuals grows, overwhelmed healthcare facilities would struggle to cope. Hospitals, already burdened by routine ailments, would face an unprecedented influx of patients. The scarcity of medical supplies, beds, and healthcare personnel would exacerbate the crisis, leading to a rapid breakdown of the healthcare system. Panic would spread like wildfire among the populace. Fearful of the contagion, people might attempt to flee affected areas, inadvertently carrying the virus with them to new locations. Quarantine measures, though enforced, might prove inadequate due to the sheer scale of the population and the interconnectedness of various regions. Supply chains would falter, leading to shortages of essential goods like food, water, and medicines. This scarcity, coupled with misinformation and confusion, would spark civil unrest. Looting, rioting, and clashes could erupt as desperate individuals vie for dwindling resources, further complicating efforts to contain the outbreak. The economic fallout would be catastrophic. Stock markets would plummet, businesses would shutter, and unemployment rates would skyrocket. The global economy might feel the tremors as trade routes are disrupted due to embargoes and restrictions imposed by other nations to prevent the virus's spread beyond Indian borders. International aid might face limitations due to the risk of contagion, leaving the country largely isolated in its struggle against the virus. With limited external support, overwhelmed healthcare systems, social unrest, and economic collapse, the scenario could descend into a dire humanitarian crisis. In this bleak, hypothetical worst-case scenario, the rapid spread of a highly contagious virus in a densely populated area of India would challenge the nation's resilience and more probably be the start of the end of human civilization. To sum up, if the virus started in India, we would be lost. You would like to see more videos like this in other countries? Leave it in the comments.